This is the Avidyne webinar series. Today's webinar is Learning the Avidyne Atlas, Atlas Basics. This is a scenario-based training that is designed to step you through the process of operating the Avidyne Atlas FMS using real-world and practical situations. As we go through this training, you'll see that there are multiple ways to accomplish some of the tasks, and I'll typically show you at least one of those as we go. We encourage you to always defer to the pilot's guide for the latest software, or for the software that matches your particular version. In this webinar, we will cover Atlas Basics, which is these 6 lessons you see here. So we'll cover the basic overall product description, how to use the knobs and buttons, the optional VHF NavComm, basic GPS navigation, entering and changing flight plans, and entering flight plans with Airways. So first up, we're talking about the product description and overview of the Atlas. What is Atlas? First of all, Avidyne has developed 2 different versions of the Atlas. One is an FMS GPS with VHF NavComm integrated all into one box. And then we also have an FMS GPS only version, where if you're keeping your existing radios, you only want to replace the FMS. So as you can see from the chart here, there's a lot of cool features, including integrated 3D synthetic vision, integrated Jeppesen approach charts and airport diagrams, an optional wireless connectivity, also options for radar and video inputs. So it's a very versatile flight management system designed to fit into a standard Zeus width UNS form factor FMS in the pedestal. The Atlas features full R and P RNAV capability, including this will be a way to get you LPV approaches, full WAS capability. The hybrid touch shows touch screens and knobs and buttons. So pretty much anything you can do on the touch, you can do with the knobs and buttons and vice versa, which is really nice. The keyboard, instead of being alpha keyboard ABC, it's a QWERTY style keyboard, which for all of us who are using computers every day, and certainly with smartphones nowadays, the QWERTY style is very familiar and much easier to find your way around. Geofill algorithm I mentioned is designed to more quickly predict the waypoint as you're starting to enter it. And the way it works is it's context sensitive. So as you enter a waypoint, if it's direct to, it'll be in proximity to your aircraft position. If it's in the middle of a flight plan, it's based on proximity to the previous fix. Our moving map display got a full terrain database, so you have a color contour terrain base map with full overlay of your Jeppesen nav data, off-route waypoints, nav aids, intersections, fully customizable data blocks. It's very versatile. We've got the 3D synthetic vision. As you see here, we can show 3D version of your traffic right out on the screen here in standard TCAS symbology that you're very familiar with, as well as terrain alerting, geo-referenced approach charts and airport diagrams. All your nav data and your charts are easily updatable on an industry standard, just a normal USB drive, so you don't need a customized data card or data loader to update your nav data and charts. If you happen to have an Bendix digital radar, we can support that right on the screen as either the primary or as a supplemental radar display. And we have an RS-170 video input. It also provides full fuel management capability when interfaced to an external fuel flow. We'll show range rings for 45-minute reserves, etc. You can enter in either in gallons or in pounds, so it makes it easy depending on the environment you're in. Your Atlas is designed to support Flight Operations Quality Assurance Program. If you have one of those, Atlas has a built-in flight data recorder that'll record a lot of the parameters for you and send them out on a Wi-Fi to a third-party capture device like the AirSync unit, which then you can transfer right to your phone, and 5 minutes after your flight, you can do a full evaluation right on your phone. So that kind of sums up the product overview for Atlas. Next up, we'll talk about knobs and button functions. The Atlas FMS features a full touchscreen, plus it has knobs and buttons. So when we look at the bezel controls for the Atlas, so your frequency flip-flop, your frequency nomination, we'll talk about each of these, your procedure button, so that'll bring up the procedures menu for approaches, SIDS, and stars, your nearest search page, direct to function, 4 line select keys. The functions on the line select keys vary based on what page you're on, and they will be labeled appropriately. And again, you can either push the line select key or touching the label on the touchscreen will provide the same function. These are your dedicated page function keys and the associated tabs. Right now we're on the FMS page and the flight plan tab, and you can see all the other tabs are plainly labeled. We have a full alphanumeric QWERTY keyboard, which makes it very easy to use. Here's your clear key. The left dual concentric knobs are for controlling the COMM and NAV frequency input. And if you're tuning a remote transponder, you can actually tune the transponder through here as well. The next button here is your volume and your squelch for your VHF radio. It is also push and hold to turn off the power. Here's the USB port under this cover. That is where you update your nav data and your charts, etc. And software updates as well. Here's our GPS, VLOC, OBS source select knob. Here's our dual concentric knob on the right side. I call it the FMS knob. You'll find it very useful for doing things like entering flight plans. If you're on the map page, it'll be the range for zooming in and out. So it is context sensitive based on what page you're on. Here's the enter key. Pushing on the FMS button is the same as hitting the enter key. I mentioned the tabs here. Here's the active and standby COMM NAV frequencies. Here's your nav source select, this icon right in this area, and then your connectivity status for Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. There are a couple of customizable one-line data blocks across the top of the screen. Now remember, there's 2 different versions of the Atlas, one with a VHF radio and one without. If you're using the one without, you wouldn't have the frequency transfer button. And you can see the ones marked with the asterisk. That would not be in the non-VHF version. I mentioned the source states and modes. Your FMS source state, so it could be GPS, it could be LPV mode, VLOC. Here's all the different possibilities. OBS mode. So that's where you'll, at any given time, if you're not sure what the FMS is doing, you can look right there and it'll tell you what nav source you're using. It'll also tell you the transition source state as well, whether you're transitioning from a GPS to a localizer or an ILS, or whether you're transitioning to an LPV or an LNAV plus V as it shows here, or if you're in OBS mode and you're switching to a VLOC. And then the other nice feature on the FMS, there's a data block here at LSK4. It's your nav mode and CDI scaling data block. And it tells you what mode you're in, whether in route, terminal, or approach. At any given time, you can glance there and it'll let you know. And of course, the CDI scaling associated with each of those modes. One of the nice features of Atlas is its page and tab user interface. And what that means is we've got the main pages on these 2-way rocker switches. In this case, I've got the FMS page selected, and there's a set of tabs associated with it. If I were to reach over and touch the map page, then I would have a different set of tabs associated with it. These are 2-way rocker switches, so I can move between the tabs by moving left and right on the rocker switch. Here and here. Of course, because it is touch, I can also just touch any tab. So I can get to any page in 1 or 2 clicks. The same holds true for the auxiliary pages, the utility pages, and the data link pages. There's also what we call a side tab, depending on the screen you're on. Here we're looking at the TAWS page, and if I hit that side tab, you'll notice the data blocks pop out. Or here we've got a flight plan plus map, and here we've got nearest plus map. Let's dig into that a little further. I'm cruising along and I'm on the map page and I'm on the map tab, which means I've got a full screen map. You'll notice the side tab allows you to bring up the data blocks. I can either reach up and touch that data block, or I can push and hold this map button. If I touch it, the data blocks will slide out like a little drawer, and the map will resize in the remaining area. And now I can see all my data blocks. They are scrollable, so they'll actually extend beyond the screen, and you can scroll up or scroll down to view different data blocks. These are fully customizable, so you can change the order or remove or add from a whole host of data block selections. If I push and hold the button or touch the tab, it will retract again, and I'll be back to the full map. Here I'm on the FMS Flight Plan tab, and I've got a full screen FMS, so I can see each of my waypoints and all the detail associated with each waypoint. Notice the side tab, it's called Map. If I touch that Map tab or push and hold the button, it'll retract and I'll get a Flight Plan plus Map page. Now I can see my waypoints and the map at the same time. This is a great screen for having in view as you're building a new flight plan, because it will actually build it out on the map for you as you go, and you'll be able to preview airways and approaches, etc. as you build it. If I push the flight plan again, it'll come back. Notice now I'm on the FMS Nearest tab. I can also get there by pushing the Nearest button. If I push the Nearest search, it'll come up with the nearest airports, which actually takes me to the FMS Nearest tab. So I can get there in one click by pushing this button, or 2 clicks by pushing FMS Nearest. When I'm on the Nearest page, I can get all the information about the nearest airports, including this little blue info button. If I click it, it will take me to the info tab for that particular airport. If I click this info button, it'll take me to the info tab for that airport. Same here. If you notice, there's a little chart icon next to each waypoint. That means there's a Jeppesen chart in the database for each of those airports. I can click that and go right to view those charts. Notice the little METAR flag right here. That means that's got a METAR at that waypoint. So I can bring up weather for, in this case, Minneapolis-St. Paul. If I push the Nearest button, this line select key, I can cycle through nearest airports to destination, nearest VORs, nearest intersections, nearest center frequencies, flight service, and so on. And I think the nearest user waypoints are also in that list now. If I reach up and touch the side tab or push and hold the FMS button, I can get the Nearest plus Map. And this page is really handy for graphically viewing your nearest airport. So as I scroll down through the list, the little cyan circle will move around to wherever the nearest airport is. Here I've scrolled down, and you can see there's an airport right off the 2 o'clock position there. So that's the side tab, and then you've got all the other page and tab features. So in addition to the touch screen, anything you can do on the knobs and buttons, you can do with touch, and it makes the Atlas a very versatile and powerful navigator to get you where you're going, and with LPV get you into more runways more often. So that was knobs and button functions. Next up, we'll talk about the optional VHF COMM and NAV radio. The Avidyne Atlas actually comes in 2 separate flavors. There's the FMS only version, so it's just a GPS FMS. And then there's the FMS GPS with a VHF NavCom capability built in. So we're going to focus on that one, which has the VHF COMM and NAV radio built in. So we can talk about how to tune the radios and get the most out of your Atlas. Here you can see the display and controls relevant to the VHF COMM and NAV portion of the Atlas system. We'll focus in on those. One of the cool features of the integrated NavCom is the Atlas will give you station ID readouts of the active and standby comm frequencies that make it easy to figure out who you're talking to before you push to talk. So you'll see the station ID below the frequency. You will see the TX enunciation if you're transmitting on the active frequency. You will see the RX indication when either the active or the standby frequency is receiving a voice transmission. Important to note that the digital radio in the Atlas actually tunes the active and the standby and can receive on both simultaneously and independently. If wired appropriately to your audio panel, you can select the monitor function and monitor that standby frequency. To tune the comm radios, there are several different ways to do it. One way is to use the left concentric knobs. So the outer knob turns megahertz and the inner knob is your kilohertz. And then you use your flip-flop button, your frequency transfer button, to move the standby tuned frequency up into the active. Another way to do it is by using the keypad. To bring up the keypad, just touch anywhere in the standby window. The keypad will appear on the screen, and you can either use the keypad or the numeric hard keyboard and type in the frequency. One of the cool features of the Atlas, you don't have to type in the leading 1. It's optional. And any trailing 0 you wouldn't have to add as well. So as an example, if you wanted to type in 118.2, you could simply type in 182 and enter, and it would fill in the remaining characters. So it's a nice way to provide a shortcut. And then you can flip-flop it into the active. You can also use frequency nomination capability of the Atlas. So by using the frequency line select key here, it will bring up a frequency nomination page, and it's context sensitive based on your location. So there's 3 separate tabs, and if you cycle through the frequency button, it'll cycle between each tab, or you can touch any of the tabs. But then you can either use the knob to scroll down through the list, highlight a frequency and push the knob to transfer it, or just reach up and touch any frequency and double click it, and it will move over into the standby window. The airport tab is going to have when you're sitting on the ground at your departure airport, it's going to have your origin frequencies at your local airport pretty much in the order that you need them. Once you depart that airport and are en route, you can go to the en route tab, and it will give you center frequencies and flight service and those sort of things. When you get within 40 miles of your destination airport, go back to the airport tab, and it will have all your arrival frequencies in the order you need them. So you rarely have to manually type in a frequency. You can simply go through the nomination list, and it's always going to have the frequencies that you need. There's also a recent tab, as you see here. The recent tab is going to give you a running list of your most recently tuned frequencies. So if you need to go back in case you manually mistuned, you can go back to a frequency previously tuned. You can also direct tune from the information tab. So if you're on the FMS info tab and you select the airport and there's a list of comm frequencies for that airport, you can scroll through the list, again using the knob, scroll and push the enter button to transfer, or just reach up and touch any one of the frequencies and double click it and it'll transfer into the standby window. So that's off the info tab. And also, if you're doing a nearest search, if you push the nearest line select key and you bring up the nearest airports page, again, you can scroll down through the list and highlight a frequency and push in on the knob and it will transfer over, or you can just reach up and double click on any frequency in the list and move it into the standby window. And that holds true for nearest airports or airports nearest your destination, or center frequencies or flight service. Any of those frequencies in your nearest search, you can transfer those over into the standby. For nav tuning, what's nice about the Atlas is it will auto-tune your nav and ILS frequencies for you if you have the flight plan loaded in FMS. So based on your current flight plan, Atlas's geofill is going to accurately predict and load the most likely VOR frequencies along your route. If you're looking at a nearby VOR and you want to tune it, you're going to look up and notice that it's probably already tuned and in the active window. When you load an approach, whether it's a localizer or an ILS or even on a GPS approach, it's going to tune the nearby nav aids, and it'll self-identify and give you an actual readout if it's tuned and decoded the Morse code for that nav frequency. So you very rarely have to manually tune a nav frequency. But if you want to manually tune, there are several ways to do it, just like with the COM. You can simply push in on the left knob and move the cyan cursor down from the standby comm to the standby nav, and then start turning from kilohertz and megahertz with the knobs. Tune it like a standard radio. Or you can reach up and touch the standby nav window and a keyboard will pop up, and you can either use the touch keyboard or the dedicated numeric keypad and type in the frequencies with the same rules as the comm. You don't need to use the leading 1 or the trailing zeros. It'll automatically fill those in. Then you can, again, flip-flop into the active. Just like with the comm, if you go to the info tab for a given VOR waypoint, the associated frequency will be listed, and you can transfer it in by either highlighting and entering with the knob or just double-clicking on the frequency. And as we mentioned with the nearest page, if you do a nearest search for VORs, you select VORs on the line select key, you can scroll through the list and push enter or double click on the frequency to move it across. So you've got a lot of options. It's easy to tune, very intuitive. The Atlas VHF COMM NAV is very capable and powerful. It's fully integrated with your flight management system. So that's pretty much it for using the VHF COMM NAV portion of your Atlas FMS. Next up, we'll move into basic GPS navigation. This is Lesson 4, Basic GPS Navigation, Entering a Flight Plan. Atlas makes entering, editing, and flying flight plans a simple and easy task. In this lesson, we will enter a simple flight plan and review some of the useful features you would use during this procedure. For this scenario, let's assume we received the following clearance from Chicago Executive PWK to Oshkosh Airport via the Badger VOR. Climb and maintain 6,000, expect 16,000 after 10. Departure frequency 120.55, squawk 4321. Let's load this simple flight plan into the Atlas FMS. At startup, we see our origin airport, in this case, KPWK, Chicago Executive. We can bring up the FMS menu by tapping on the blank area of the touchscreen. We want to enter a waypoint, which is the default option. So you push in on the right knob or push enter, then enter the first waypoint, BAE, then push the right FMS knob to enter or push the enter key. Now let's push the FMS knob to add a waypoint again, and let's enter our destination airport, KOSH, and hit enter. Touching the map side tab allows us to view the flight plan plus map page, giving us a full view of our flight plan from Chicago Exec to Oshkosh. Using the FMS page rocker switch, we can move through each of the tabs, left and right, to get additional information as needed. We can hit the map page button to view the full screen map. We are in north up view right now. Pushing the right FMS knob switches the map to forward view track up, 360 view track up, and back to 360 degree view north up. Use LSK2 to declutter the off-route nav data from the map. There are 3 levels of declutter. LSK3 is used to declutter the base map, removing terrain, then roads and rivers, and finally all water and political boundaries. Press and hold the left or right side of the map page button to bring up the map plus data blocks. Tuning the optional VHF COMM radio can be done by turning the left inner knob for kilohertz and outer knob for megahertz. Or the easier method is to use the frequency nomination key and select the desired frequency from the nomination list. You can scroll with the right FMS knob and push the knob to select, or you can simply double tap on the desired frequency to load it into the standby window. When connected to a remote transponder, simply push the left tuning knob twice to bring up the transponder data block. Touching the transponder code window brings up the remote transponder control panel. Use the touchscreen or the keyboard to enter the squawk code, in this case 4321, then hit the Alt key to enable. Climbing out, we can switch to the map page TAWS tab. The magenta line will come in view as we climb through 1,000 feet AGL on the synthetic vision display. Touch the Map side tab or press and hold the Map page button to bring up the data blocks. Press and hold again to retract the data blocks, based on your preference. In the event of an emergency, or to simply find a nearby airport, press the nearest key. We can scroll through the list and tune the optional comm radio with the Atlas's Quick Tune feature. Clicking on the blue Info button brings up information on that particular airport, including comm frequencies, runway lengths, available approaches, etc. On the Flight Plan Nearest page, we can see a list of the nearby airports, and as we scroll through the list, the selected airport is highlighted on the map with a cyan circle, making it much easier for identification. And that covers Lesson 4, Basic GPS Navigation, Entering a Flight Plan. This is Lesson 5, Changing a Flight Plan. Atlas makes it really simple to alter and edit your flight plans while in flight. In this lesson, we will enter a simple flight plan. Then we will show you how to go direct to a downstream waypoint in that flight plan, how to go direct to a waypoint that is not in the flight plan, how to add and delete waypoints, and how to handle a discontinuity or gap in route. For this scenario, let's assume we receive the following clearance. Learjet 1234, you are cleared from St. Paul Downtown Airport to Chicago Midway via the Press intersection, Nodine, direct Lone Rock, direct Madison, direct Northbrook, climb and maintain 6,000, expect flight level 280 after 10, departure frequency 121.2, squawk 4321, hold for release. For this demo, I will enter the flight plan just as it is shown below, using the symbol period key in between each waypoint. We verify the origin, then hit the period or the dot key, enter PRESS on the keyboard, then dot, ODI dot, LNR dot, MSN dot, OBK dot, then our destination airport, KMDW, enter. Now let's scroll up and check our flight plan again for accuracy. We can also use the side tab or press and hold the FMS page key to view the flight plan plus map page. All looks good. Let's tune the departure frequency, which we can do with the left knobs or via the frequency nomination page. We have the optional remote transponder on this demo, so we can push the left knob twice to bring up the transponder window and enter our assigned squawk code and enable altitude mode. Now let's activate our flight plan. We've been cleared for takeoff. As we climb through 1,000 feet, our magenta line appears on the TAWS page. One of the most common and welcome changes to a flight plan is when you are cleared to fly direct to a waypoint that is already in your flight plan. Since it's already in your flight plan, it's easy to select and go direct to it. In this scenario, you get a call from ATC. Learjet 1234, you are cleared direct to Madison. So let's scroll down to Madison and hit the Direct To button. Press Enter to acknowledge and enter again to confirm. Sometimes we are asked to go directly to a waypoint that is not in our flight plan. Let's see how to do that. Continuing this scenario, we are proceeding direct to Madison when we get a call from ATC. Learjet 1234, turn left 20 degrees and proceed direct to the Volk VOR when able. In this case, we will simply hit the Direct To button and then enter VOK for the Volk VOR. You'll notice that GeoFill completes the entry simply by pressing the letter V. Then press Enter to acknowledge and Enter to confirm. Okay, now we are flying direct to the Volk VOR. As you look at the revised flight plan, you will notice the word gap that appears in the flight plan. And on the map, you can see there's literally a gap between VOK and the next waypoint, MSN. And if we don't make a change, your aircraft will reach Volk and keep going straight forever. We haven't told the FMS what to do after Volk, as ATC has not given you further clearance yet. Rather than wait around, let's make a request to ATC. Center Learjet 1234 requests direct Madison after Volk. ATC replies, Learjet 1234 after Volk cleared direct to Madison. Now that we are cleared, we can tell the FMS to remove the gap and link Volk with Madison. Simply scroll the cursor over the gap and you will notice that LSK1 says connect Volk and Madison. So you can hit the LSK1 or simply hit clear to remove the gap. Now upon reaching Volk, we will transition to Madison just as it shows on the map. But nothing is ever simple in the ATC world. You receive the following instructions. Learjet 1234, Chicago approach will not accept you on your current routing. After Madison, you're cleared direct Janesville, direct Northbrook as filed. This means you must insert a new waypoint, Janesville, between Madison and Northbrook. To do this, simply move the cursor between the two waypoints, push in on the FMS knob to bring up the FMS menu, press the FMS knob again to select waypoint, then enter J on the keyboard. You'll notice Geofill has nominated Janesville, JVL, since it's nearby. So simply push the FMS knob again or hit enter, and we are good to go. Sometimes you will want to delete a waypoint in a flight plan. In this scenario, let's assume we're flying along and ATC says, Learjet 1234, Chicago approach has changed their minds. After Madison, you are cleared direct Northbrook as filed. That means we want to delete the Janesville waypoint. So we will move our cursor over Janesville and simply hit the clear button to delete it. For our final scenario in this lesson, ATC calls Learjet 1234. Chicago approach reports heavy thunderstorms at Midway. No traffic is currently getting in. Expect extensive holding until the airport reopens. We decide instead we will divert to Janesville and wait it out on the ground. Center Learjet 1234 requests diversion to Janesville Airport. We'll wait out the bad weather there. ATC replies, Learjet 1234, you are cleared direct to Janesville Airport. In this case, we can simply move the cursor to the end of our flight plan, push the right FMS knob twice, and enter the new destination. As we type KJV, Geofill adds the L for us, so all we need to do now is confirm by pushing the FMS knob again. While Janesville Airport is still highlighted, simply hit direct to and the enter button twice to confirm. That was lesson 5, changing flight plans. This is lesson 6, flight plans with Airways. In this lesson, we will enter a flight plan that contains multiple airways so you can see just how easy it is. For this scenario, we had the following clearance. Learjet 1234, you are cleared from St. Paul Downtown Airport to Chicago Midway via the press intersection, Victor 2 to Nodine, direct Madison, Victor 228 to Bessie. Climb and maintain 6,000, expect flight level 240 after 10, departure frequency 121.2, squawk 4321. We will use the FMS knob to enter this flight plan. We have confirmed our origin is correct. I will push in on the FMS knob to enter a waypoint. Then we will use the keyboard to enter press, P-R-E-S-S. Push the knob again and scroll down through the list of Victor Airways that pass through the press intersection. Select Victor 2 by pressing the FMS knob again, then scroll to Nodine, ODI, and push the FMS knob again to select. Again, push the FMS knob to select waypoint and type in MSN for Madison. Then pushing the FMS knob again brings up the FMS menu so we can scroll through the list of Victor Airways that pass through Madison VOR. Notice the airway preview on the map as we scroll through the list of Victor Airways, making it really easy to visually confirm we have the right airway. Highlight Victor 228, push the FMS knob to select, scroll to Bessie as our exit point, and push again to select. Finally, we push the knob to bring up the menu and enter a waypoint, in this case our destination airport, KMDW, and hit enter. Let's scroll the cursor to our origin airport. Using LSK2, we can select View Cursor, and you will notice as we scroll through each waypoint in the flight plan, we can view those waypoints on the map as we move through the flight plan list. Makes for a great way to review your flight plan for accuracy. Now let's switch line select key 2 to View Compact. We'll also push and hold the FMS page button so that we have the full flight plan in view as well. Note that in compact view, you can quickly scan the flight plan and read it back in clearance language just as it was received. Switch back to expanded view to see all the intermediate waypoints associated with each airway. Looks like we're all set. Let's activate the flight plan and we'll be on our way. That completes the Atlas Basics lessons. In future webinars, we will cover Atlas Advanced features and Power User features.
If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to pilotsupport@avidyne.com. Have a great day and fly safe, everyone.